That was great, Aquarius 1982. We had an early supper because I'm going to be with you guys for the next hour, hour and a half, hopefully answering your questions. So forgive me while I do some housekeeping here, but we are just rocking and rolling on our live. We're live tonight over on YouTube. We're also live on Twitch and LinkedIn. So if you are joining us, say hi. TikTok folks, give some taps, give some hearts, say hi, tell me where you guys are from. If you are on the YouTube, always love it when you say hi. YouTube comments are a little slower to come through, but I love it when you drop them because it's nice to know you're out there and I'm not just talking to a computer screen. So what do we got here? I'm gonna share this, because I don't know if a lot of people saw the Big Beautiful Bill updates. After my video earlier today, where a lot of people were asking, when is the Department of Education going to get rid of the partial financial hardship requirement? And you might realize that now there's a government shutdown and things are getting delayed. Well, the one Big Beautiful Bill eliminated the partial financial hardship requirement. And this is where your IBR payment is higher than your standard plan. You can't enroll in IBR. But that's a big deal for people that want to get out of the safe forbearance potentially and enroll in IBR because they're going for public service loan forgiveness or similar. And so the latest Department of Education update on October 10th said, we are working to update both our systems and our loan servicer systems to implement these changes. We anticipate the system changes will be completed in winter of 2025. In the meantime, this is the big change. We already knew the winter 2025 thing, but in the meantime, servicers will hold IBR applications that would otherwise be denied, and they will keep those applications they'll process those applications after the system changes are implemented. More information will be coming out when that is available. So hopefully we will see that pretty soon. But as of now, I was talking to some folks in the student loan space earlier. They just saw one denied today. So, we'll see what happens there. Awesome, guys. Welcome. I'm seeing some comments on TikTok, so thank you. I love answering your comments. My favorite thing on our live Q&A. There's no Q&A if there's no comments. So please drop your questions in the chats. YouTube, Twitch, you guys do the same thing. Susanna over here on TikTok says, is there any way to fix an out-of-state fee when my student didn't provide the documentation? I'm not quite sure what out-of-state fees you are talking about, but I'm guessing that's something that you want to take up with your college's financial aid office and hold them accountable, and not hold them accountable, but ask them what the heck's going on and see if you can get that reversed. I think one of the frustrating things as a parent now is that you are the, coach and your child is the star, and you have to coach them through these things. And I know there's a big cost in this type of thing, and so you can't let them do that alone potentially. But these are the kind of lessons that those kids need to figure out because life's just going to keep coming at them. All right. We are going to block some accounts for the first time. That was some crazy stuff over here on the TikTok. What would you feed a 5-foot albino alligator? That's a funny one. I don't know. Golfers, maybe. Jacob, I am creating a new budget. Should I create a generosity portion? Jacob, that is a huge value set question. And I think it's a good thing because generosity can come in a lot of forms. But you should definitely budget for all your expenses. One thing I would ask you, Jacob, is do you already give? Are you already being charitable? Or does generosity come in other ways? Because, there's a lot of nuance to generosity. And I think that you could, definitely put a line item in your budget. It could also mean padding other aspects of your budget. So, there's a lot to do there. But the big key to a budget is just being accurate and setting up accurate information, and so that you're using accurate and realistic goals. And so, don't set yourself up to fail right away, because that's also what derails a lot of people from budgeting, is they create these unrealistic budgets and then they feel like they're failing, and then they're like, forget budgeting. This sucks. I'm not making any progress. Whatever your answer is. So at least make a realistic budget. If you guys are just joining us, we are live here on TikTok. We are live on YouTube. And we are answering your personal finance, student loans, financial aid questions. So we're talking a little about budgeting, a little bit about financial aid. It's FAFSA season, CSS season. There's a lot of student loan changes. I started off talking a little bit about the partial financial hardship in today's video. One of the other big things that we were reporting on today on the website is that tax season is probably going to be very delayed. So if you are hoping for a tax refund in 2026, be warned now that we might not even be able to start filing our taxes by e-file until mid-February. So be aware that is coming, and we'll talk more about that as it gets a little closer. But this government shutdown is not helping that kind of thing. Over here on YouTube, Matt, when should I leave pay to avoid getting put on the WRAP plan? Matt, I think you're going to get a lot of warning before you have to leave pay. They're doing the negotiated rulemaking right now, and the Department of Education was really pushing hard to say you're going to have to enroll in another plan. They don't want to automatically put people in it. They might actually just put you in the standard plan. But they're going to give you lots of notice. My conversations with the loan servicers that I know, they are thinking the Department of Education is going to shut down enrollment in pay in late 2027. And they are going to spend the time from late 2027 to, March, April of 2028, getting people situated and moving on plans. So if you're trying to plan your exit, I would say that you should probably be planning your exit from the pay-as-you-earn pay plan sometime in late 2027, early 2028 at the latest, because of course you do know that it just ends on, that was weird. It just ends on June 30th of 2028. So you got lots of time. Keep riding out the pay. Your option's going to be IBR. So yeah, great question. Jacob, I've never gave before. I just want to learn to not be too stingy with my money. Thank you. Well, like I said, generosity starts in many forms too. Charity is a great one. Giving a nice tip to the coffee shop you go to is a great one. Like, there's ways to be generous. It doesn't have to be so structured. Maybe there's a cause you like, things like that. User, I heard they are forgiving student loans again. I still don't see my payment count updated. Timeline. They are forgiving student. They've never stopped forgiving student loans under public service loan forgiveness. And IBR loan forgiveness has restarted for borrowers that have already reached their 240 or 300 qualifying payments. Now, not all of them have, but a lot of the ones that have been stuck in limbo for a long time started getting some notices. I don't think anyone's actually got their final done. I think they just got their notice, then the government shut down, and now they're just waiting in limbo. But hey, that's a start. Nobody on pay is eligible for loan forgiveness. ICR is blocked by the courts, and of course, SAVE is blocked by the courts. So if you're in any of those plans, you might consider moving into IBR if you're getting close to your 240 months of things. When it comes to updating your payment counts in your loan servicer portal, man, I think that's getting shoved to the back burner. I think that's not going to get updated until early next year. Earlier this year, when they took them away, I was expecting them to be done by like September, October, but then they passed the One Big Beautiful Bill. The government shutdown's happening. They're doing all these changes. I don't think there's any bandwidth to put back the tracker on studentaid.gov for IDR loan forgiveness. I think it'll happen, but I think it's going to be, that's really low priority for all the other changes that they have to do. I was at 298 out of 300. The last time my counts were posted. Ooh, you are close. So get those last couple IBR payments done. July, August, September, you should be very close to that. I would also, user, encourage you to pull your MyAid, like the actual text file, go on your dashboard, download the text file, like make sure your September or August and September are posted, and then like my fingers are crossed that you are like right there. Rick on YouTube is asking, can I summarize the loan updates from the big beautiful bill? Rick, I kind of want to know where you want to go with this first, because you got changes to repayment plans, and then you also have changes to borrowing. Where are you thinking you want to go with it? Because I want to make sure I get you a good answer. And since you're on YouTube, we can get fancy, and I can like pull up like an actual infographic and like show you the nice things. So let me know where you want to go with that one, Rick. I'll show you all the changes. Right there. Over here, what do we got going on? If you guys are just joining us over on TikTok, give me some hearts. Let me know you're alive out there, and drop your questions in the chat, in the comments, and we will be answering your questions. All right, Rick over here wants to know about the borrowing changes that come with the One Big Beautiful Bill. So nothing really changed with undergraduate borrowing. The big changes come with grad school. So Grad PLUS loans were eliminated in the One Big Beautiful Bill for graduate school. However, they did increase the limits on direct student loan borrowing for graduate school. The new limits for graduate school are going to be $100,000 a year in aggregate for graduate school, $200,000 a year in aggregate for professional school, and then you have your annual loan limits, $20,500 for graduate school, and then $50,000 a year for professional school. If you notice that there, $20,000 a year for graduate school. Most graduate schools 2 years. So the effective limit of graduate school borrowing for like a master's degree is $40,000 or $41,000. So significantly decreased the loan limits for graduate school borrowing. The other thing is repayment plans are changing for those new loans. Starting July 1st, if you borrow, you only have 2 repayment plan options: standard plan and the new repayment assistance plan, RAP, which is income driven. So there are definitely some changes there. And then when it comes to Parent Plus loans, there are new Parent Plus loan caps. So this kind of does impact undergraduate borrowing, because it's, for the undergrad kids, it's $20,000 a year or $65,000 in aggregate. And Parent Plus loans are also subject to those new repayment plans. So only the standard plan, they're not eligible for RAP. So for parents that are borrowing for their kids, that also means no path to public service loan forgiveness, no path for income-driven repayment. It can be very expensive to repay Parent Plus loans. I hope that helps answer your question, Rick, as simply as I can with the summary, but those are the big changes. So Sneeze Bees over on TikTok says, do I think buyback requests from 2024 are ever going to be addressed? Sneeze Bees, they have been addressed. They're slowly working through them. I think I saw some people at the beginning, from the beginning of December, getting their buybacks. I know October and November have gotten their buybacks. No one's processing buybacks because of the government shutdown. So yeah, it's not going to happen right now. And so I think that backlog is just going to keep getting delayed and delayed and delayed and delayed. Like I said, I don't know if buyback's necessarily the right path for a lot of people. There's definitely some outlying scenarios where buyback is the cheaper option, but time's ticking, right? And I think for people that sometimes a little bit higher payment is better than delay, delay, delay. So you got to do some math on your own end and decide, do I want to keep riding out buyback and waiting, or should I just do it, I always say, the old-fashioned way and get it done? Because, it's going to process, but it's just a question of when and how long you're going to keep waiting. Matt over on YouTube says, if I go from pay to IBR, do I get any of the year credits towards 20 years? Nope. All of your payment history when you transition from pay to IBR continues if you're eligible for 20 years for IBR. Remember, you still got the new and old IBR. So there's a little gap in the pay where you could be pay eligible and get old IBR. But I'm assuming if you're new IBR eligible and it's 20 years, all of your credits carry forward right into IBR. That's not a big deal right there. So I hope that alleviates some concern, Matt, and I appreciate the questions over there. So thank you, YouTube folks. Always great to see. All right. TikTok folks, I'm seeing more of you guys come into the chat. Drop your questions if you're just joining us. Give us some hearts. I only have 12 hearts and I've been going at this for 15 minutes and I've answered at least a couple of your questions. Man, that hurts me a little bit. Come on, guys. Let the people know we're here. Rick, great question. YouTube over here. Rick says, what is PAY and IBR? These are repayment plan acronyms. So when you get towards repayment, Rick, that's why I asked you, do you want to talk about repayment or borrowing? PAY is pay as you earn and IBR is income-based repayment. And these are two repayment plans that apply to existing student loan borrowers. Now, if you are a new borrower and your first student loan will be, or you'll take any student loan after July 1st, 2026, you don't have access to those. You only have access to the standard plan and the RAP plan. Existing student loan borrowers right now have access to the standard plan as well, but they are different. They have access to IBR, pay as you earn, ICR. Pay as you earn, ICR are going away, as you heard me maybe talking to Matt about earlier. And the only thing that's going to continue is IBR for existing borrowers. New borrowers won't have access to IBR. Welcome, Free. Welcome, Alex. Thanks so much for being here. Who else is over here? Harbor Dude, Chels, Linz, Soar with Julie, Lisa. Appreciate you guys being here. Matt and Rick over on YouTube. Appreciate you guys being here. Drop your questions in the chat. Throw some hearts down. Make sure you like them. Like, subscribe, and follow if you're on the YouTube so that people know that we're here. But Rick, one of the things that's so interesting is that student loans are they're just so challenging. They don't operate like any other type of consumer loan product. I'm going to put up the repayment chart, even though you weren't necessarily asking about it. I'm gonna share it with you here, just so you can kind of get a gauge of what's happening. So you can see right here. Here are the repayment plans. We just put this infographic together. Sorry, TikTok folks. You can look over on YouTube right now and you can see the infographic. You've actually seen me share it on my videos here on TikTok if you're looking at the best repayment plan options. But with that being said, you can see that repayment plans for loans before June 2026, you have the standard, the extended, the graduated, you have income-based repayment. I didn't even put on IBR, ICR, pay as you earn, or sorry, ICR and pay as you earn because they're going away. For loans after June 2026, you got the standard plan and you got the RAP plan. The RAP plan doesn't launch until July of 2026, and it seems like it's going to launch on time. So haven't heard any issues with that. Mary, welcome. Free, good evening to you. Appreciate it. Soft Life Seeker, welcome, welcome. All right. Doing some housekeeping here as we keep going. Sorry, one-man show here, but if you guys have a question, let's talk about it. So Rick, I hope that helps answer your questions over here on the repayment plans. It's confusing. Student loans just operate like no other consumer financial product out there. And I think that's also what's so hard for a lot of people to grasp is that because of the way it operates, there's definitely like pros and cons to doing a lot of different approaches in terms of how you repay a student loan and, you know, what it is. Ooh, this looks controversial. There is a YouTuber that claims they can get PSLF reimbursement by talking to HR, even if you are a contract worker for a nonprofit that qualified for public service loan forgiveness. There's a lot to unpack in that, but if you are not a W-2 employee and you are a contract worker, you are not eligible for public service loan forgiveness. There is one weird exception in the state of California and Texas if you are an emergency doctor, because there's a weird rule where they can't like employ doctors directly, but excluding that weird exception of a rule, that would be incorrect. So there's two facets here. Is that one, they're either lying on a federal form, and that could get them in a whole host of problems. And committing financial aid fraud and student loan forgiveness fraud can get you fines and prison and all kinds of nasty stuff. And I would venture that it's going to get caught too, because they keep integrating all these systems now with like, I hate saying AI, but it's just data matching, right? So it's like they're going to link up like your IRS tax return, like who you worked for and where your W-2, but you didn't get a W-2, you got a 1099. And then the Department of Education is going to be able to see that eventually. And so you know what? They might not get caught like today. They might get caught in a couple years, but it's probably not going to work out very well for them. And that's probably not a YouTuber that you should be listening to or watching that it's advocating financial aid and student loan fraud. All right. Over on TikTok, we got public service loan forgiveness is still working. How has it been? Public service loan forgiveness is working. According to the latest data, Harbor Dude, over 100,000 people have gotten public service loan forgiveness in 2025 to date. People are still getting their green banners when it comes to public service loan forgiveness, but because of the government shutdown, they're not going to get their final loan forgiven until that's resolved. But that's kind of like administrative paperwork, not necessarily like you made it to 120. Buyback is where the problem lies, Harbor Dude, is people that are trying to get their PSLF buyback, not necessarily like old-fashioned way of getting PSLF. PSLF's working just fine. So hopefully that gives you a little feeling. Judy over on YouTube is asking, did the government talk about selling off the loans to private lenders? They talked about it. This is the second time the Trump administration has brought up selling private loans or selling the federal student loan portfolio to private lenders. And it's really hard to explain why this is never going to happen in a short video, but hey, we're on a live, and so let's talk about why this is probably never going to happen. First off, student loans, the federal student loan portfolio, is generally not profitable. Overall, it is really not profitable. My YouTubers, I want to pull up the numbers. Profit off student loans. I just shared this on TikTok too, guys. So if you go and look at my TikTok from a couple days ago, you will see it. But let's talk exactly about how much the government loses on student loans, because I think it's shocking to a lot of people. So here's the data, guys. This is on YouTube, but for 2024, last year, the government lost $19.64 for every $100 it lent out. The only loans that were quote unquote profitable were the PLUS loan program in aggregate, and it made $2.76 for every $100 it lent out, which would barely cover the administrative costs of those loans anyways. If you went to a normal year, I like to, we've had a crazy 5 years of student loans, and so maybe that's not a fair comparison. Hey, that's fair. So let's go back to 2017, guys. The government, the best year ever in the history of the student loan portfolio, the best year ever, they still lost 70 cents for every $100 they lent out. So they still lost money. They made a little bit of money on unsubsidized direct loans. They made a lot of money, about $31 on Parent Plus loans, but it's still not that profitable. And so one, why they're not going to get sold is that no banks and lenders want them. And it goes beyond not wanting them, because there might be some that do want them, but there's no bank big enough to buy the whole portfolio, because nobody has $1.6 trillion. Even Chase, they can't come up with that kind of cash. So part two is you're going to have to break this out into chunks and sell it off. And then you really start running into profitability issues, because you're not going to necessarily get all the good loans, the profitable ones. So there's another problem right there. There is some talk about changing the qualification of student loans for a Federal Reserve asset. So for those of you that aren't familiar with banking, banks are required to hold tier 1 assets. And that's like their reserve money, right? And this is all coming out of the great financial crisis where we had to bail the banks out. Well, banks are required to have enough tier 1 money to like stave off crisis. Tier 1 funds are typically US Treasuries. So there is talk, well, what if we said student loans were Tier 1 funds too? Then maybe banks would hold them on their books and it makes it better. But that still doesn't overcome the fact that they're not profitable. So yeah, maybe banks would be a little more excited to buy them, but they're not profitable. So then you get to the second problem here, Judy, is that the only way banks would buy them is if you give them a bunch of handouts. And so the executive branch, the Trump administration, can't do that alone. Congress would have to pass laws to subsidize and give more money to these banks to make these loans profitable for them. And so this is where you get into a whole host of problems because, like, really, what's the point then of selling off these loans if we're just going to end up paying more money to make them more enticing for banks to get them? For borrowers, because I think a lot of it, okay, now we kind of know the math behind it. That's fair. What does it mean for borrowers? For borrowers, no change would ever happen because banks buy and sell loans all the time. I don't know if you've had a mortgage or an auto loan and you start with one lender and then your loan gets sold to another. They're buying the paper of the loan, which is all of the loan terms. So with that being said, if your loans were to end up in private companies, all of the existing loan terms of the federal student aid portfolio would still be the loan terms. So all the repayment plans, public service loan forgiveness, they would all be a part of the deal. So that's what's going to happen if it did get sold. And again, all this is stuff that the government now has to like administer through like a second layer of systems, and it's just going to get more expensive and more costly. One of the big reasons we brought the student loan program into the government, because also, I don't know if you know, Judy, but this is how the student loan program operated until 2009. So this isn't like a new concept. Federal student loans used to operate as the old FFEL loan program where banks and private lenders would make the loans, the government would insure the loans, the government had to have these guarantee agencies, the government ended up having to do all this other administrative work, and it became costly, confusing, and really messed up. Didn't save anybody any money, worse results, bad system. So we brought everything in-house. Still sucky results, but at least we're saving a little bit in terms of overhead administration. And I mean, I guess the results you could say are a little better than they used to be with more direct oversight of it. But I mean, the government already sucks at oversight and accountability. And when you're just adding in a second layer of management, it's just going to get worse. So I hope that helps explain why this whole privatization thing really isn't going to happen. I mean, never say never, but like if we were doing a poly market or something, it's probably less than 1% odds that they're going to get sold off, because I'm going to go look at poly market. Let's go see if there is a poly market. Nope. No one's even made a poly market on it. Probably because it's like so unprofitable to potentially privatize student loans. Like, it's just not going to happen, Judy. So talk is cheap. So I hope that helps. Hey guys, if you are just joining us here, I saw a bunch of people pop in on TikTok, come in and out. Give some love, give some hearts. Let people know we're live. Dabian's mom, I am, user unknown, upside down, she with the blue butterflies, and Liz. Share, let people know we're here. We've been going for 30 minutes. I only have 27 hearts. That hurts my heart right here. YouTube, you guys are doing great though. I appreciate all the questions over there. Judy, Rick, Matt, great questions. Always super helpful. And I hope the TikTok crowd over here is finding value in that because it is very helpful. Cool. All right. You're welcome, Judy. I think the one thing that we've learned is that a lot of the things that are said, until they're on paper, I always like to kind of like take it with a grain of salt, because a lot is said, but when you actually read the words, not just the media headlines, like you start realizing that this is like a nothing burger. And that's exactly one of the things that's a nothing burger is privatizing student loans. Vero, welcome. Thanks for being here. Liv, can I use my 2024 tax returns to recertify my income up until I file my 2025 taxes? Yes, Liv. So if you are looking to recertify or you're looking to hop on a repayment plan, it's one of the reasons why I encourage people to do it now, especially if your income is going up this year, is they're going to use your last tax return. And so you can use your 2024 tax return all the way through potentially October of 2025 if you file October of 2026 if you file an extension too. So realize that there are ways to extend that timeline. Now, remember, you still have to pay your taxes due, and there's some nuance to extending your taxes, but they will use your last tax return. So yesterday was the extension deadline, and I know some people were strategic in leaving the SAVE plan. They waited, they filed an extension, they used their 2024 or their 2023 tax return. Yeah, that was it. 2023 tax return now in 2025 because they filed an extension on their 2024 and just turned that in. And now they get to ride that for 12 more months all the way into 2026. So it's a savvy thing to do if you're looking to leave the SAVE plan and you want to have a lower payment for at least the next couple years or year and a half. Matt, paying my student loans with a Roth IRA. There is no perk benefit thing to do anything with paying your student loans with a Roth IRA. I would, if you were I would stop you in any which way, shape, or form from using your Roth IRA to pay your student loans. Let your Roth IRA grow, buddy. Let it grow into retirement. Don't touch that money. I don't know how old you are, Matt. I'm going to venture you're in your 20s or 30s. If that's the case, every dollar in your Roth IRA is worth $5. So maybe even more than that, maybe $10. So I was going to be conservative, but if you got like $10,000 in there, it's actually worth $50,000 to $100,000. It's not worth taking that money out to pay off your student loans. You do pay your penalties on withdrawals for it. You could have used it for your education. I also don't recommend that. That's a really dumb way to use the Roth IRA. Use the Roth IRA for retirement. Your life will thank you for it. So don't do it. I will tell you what the penalty is. So it's 10% on the earnings portion is what you're going to pay on it. So, but you lose all the future growth. That's the bigger thing. It's not about the tax penalty you're paying on your earnings. It's about the fact that you took all that tax-free money away from your future. Rick, as a parent, what class of year does my student as the financial aid office use? So when you are a senior in high school, your child will fill out the FAFSA and it'll always be the prior year. So I'm just going to use this year as an example. If you have a senior this year, Rick, you're going to file the FAFSA and you're going to use your 2024 tax return that you've already filed for the 2026 academic year that the kid's going to start in. So they're a senior, you're going to use the last tax return for the future school year. I hope that makes sense. And you always use the same tax return. So even if you don't file the FAFSA in the fall, if you file in the spring, the 2026, 2027 year always uses your 2024 tax return. And the 2027, 2028 year will always use your 2025 tax return, so on and so forth. So if you have a junior this year, when they file the FAFSA next year, they're going to use this year's tax return for that. Welcome, guys. Soar with Julie, thanks so much for the like. I appreciate it, and I love the hearts. I appreciate you. I just saw we are struggling over here on TikTok tonight. I don't know why, but we're rocking over here on YouTube tonight. So this is great. I'll take it. Is it like Thursday night football and I'm messing with everyone's Thursday night football? Thanks, Matt. I love the heart there. Liv, thanks so much for being here. Lynn's, Chels. Yes, we still get a little crowd in here. I appreciate that. You guys being here is great. Otherwise, it gets boring. Like and subscribe. Let me share this out. All right. And if you guys are just joining us, I see a few people trickling through here. Feel free to drop your questions in the chat and we will answer them, because that's what we do on our weekly Q&A sessions. All right. Do. Where do we got here? All right. Well, let's go to, while we're waiting on, see if anyone has any questions. Big Games, joining us. Like it. I don't know if you guys noticed that we updated our SAVE student loan timeline estimates. I think a lot of people were concerned with the SAVE student loan timeline. Like, when am I going to have to restart my payments under SAVE? And it's a great question. And I think we're getting more and more clarity that you are likely going to be allowed to stay in the SAVE forbearance all the way up until 2028. With that being said, you probably shouldn't, and it's going to kind of be a trap for you. And it looks like, after reading some of the negotiated rulemaking comments, granted, that was only the first session of negotiated rulemaking, not the final. But it seems like the government is actually looking to push people into the standard plan if they don't select either RAP or IBR. And I think the premise is that they're basically going to let you default if you don't make a pick. They're going to force you into standard. They're going to let you just flail around. And if you default, you default, because they're giving you 2 years to make a choice on the plan. That's like if you guys remember, my meter was pretty close to, like, I was thinking July of 2026. My meter is now kind of pushing a little bit more towards June of 2028 as being the end of the SAVE forbearance. Again, not to say that you should do that, but that is what I am thinking will happen more and more. If you guys are just joining us, I saw Gary, Big Game. Always nice to have you guys here. Yeah, Big Game, that's kind of what I'm saying. I think they're just going to say, like, you're going to be in forbearance until 2028. But, like, again, I don't know if you should be in forbearance until 2028, but I think they're going to just let you ride it all the way through. Over on YouTube tonight, what are the odds? Well, first off, I missed one here. So I have to be aware of my child's finances in the junior year as it affects my child's financial aid award letter. Rick, you do. If you haven't seen our FAFSA guide, I'm going to drop it in the chat for you. What I think you need to be aware of, I think a lot of people over index on what they can and can't do. The one thing I've learned is that if you're wealthy, you know what you know, and you got what you got, and you're not going to change a lot of it. If you're on the cusp, there are a few things you can do: maxing out your retirement plans, trying to pay off debt that's not reported. That kind of thing could lower your assets and get it into accounts that you're there. Getting things into a 529 plan versus like giving it to the kid directly. There's a few levers you can pull. You're getting pretty close there, and there's not as many as you think you can do, and it's more like a report card at that time. So, something to think about. Matt, what are the odds to see real change in the cost of professional degrees like physical or like dental and physical therapy? Costs aren't going to go down, Matt. They might level out for a little bit. It's really hard though, because there's a demand for these. People can earn money. The schools know that they still can make $200,000 at least off of you, if not more. So chances are, like, it's really not going to go down a ton. I I think we're going to have to see some type of other interventions there to get them to lower the price, or schools are just going to close and it's not going to go down at the ones that exist because now there's just more demand for it. That's going to be the real economic crisis, is more school closures, not costs going down. Because a lot of these schools have also structured themselves that they don't really have a ton of extra money to lower costs anyways. Most schools don't have big endowments. Most schools have a lot of fixed expenses. Yep. Over here on TikTok, Big Game is saying that schools are just going to close and consolidate. That's really going to be the more likely outcome. Costs aren't really going to go down. And there's an enrollment cliff. I think, you know, what's so interesting is undergraduate. I always think this is interesting because, you know, what is it called? Stats lie and liars use stats. I always like that phrase because, like, these reforms are massive that we're seeing throughout the whole ecosystem, but they also come on the heels of our peak college enrollment for the next 20 to 25 years, simply because of demographics. Like, there are just less kids in high school because people are having less kids. And so you have this just natural demographic phenomenon that over the next 20 years, there will be less people in high school anyways, simply because there's less kids to go to college. And it'll be curious to see how places are using those stats as either a referendum against the changes or what. But I don't see costs going down, Matt, in any way. I also think, too, for professional degrees is generally, I know a lot of people are mad at the caps on plus loans and grad plus loans and the graduate lending. The truth is that when we talk about privatizing student loans, like Judy was asking earlier in this is a push to send profitable borrowers to banks. Not necessarily by selling the loan portfolio, but by having parents go borrow private loans because they're better than Parent Plus loans, and by sending professional school students like doctors and lawyers and dentists to banks and lenders. Banks love to lend to doctors. They just love to lend to doctors. They would give doctors student loans all day long, let them pay $25 a month in residency, because they want them to be long-term clients, and they want to get all that wealth from them over time. And so while we're not privatizing the student loan portfolio in terms of like selling it, this is like a big push towards more privatization on highly qualified borrowers potentially. So I hope that helps. We are finally getting some people trickling in on TikTok. Please give some hearts. Tiffany, Dabian's mom, welcome back. Appreciate it. It's the hearts that let people know we're here. If you're not hearting this, then like we go down to like one person hanging out in here, and then it's lonely. But all good. Appreciate it, Big Game. Tiffany, thanks for the likes. Love having these chats. Love talking it. I saw your thing earlier too, Big Game. I've seen a lot of letters. I've seen a lot of letters going out to 2027 and 2028. I find it interesting though that I don't know why they're not all the same. I reached out to one of my loan servicer contacts. I haven't heard back. And I wonder, like, I just always wonder why I haven't heard back. But like, why is like Nelnet doing 2028? And they're doing like, they're deferring it until like after the big beautiful bill cutoff. And then I saw some other ones in 2027. And it makes no sense. But it does make sense that they're just going to, instead of doing 3-month increments, like now that we know that they're probably going to let everyone ride this until the end. But can't you like make the letter like exactly the same? I don't know. It doesn't make sense. All right. Welcome, guys. If you are here, say hi. Let us know where you're from. I see someone on Twitch too. I love it on Twitch. It's one of those places. Yeah, you thought it was, I thought it was moved from 326 to 328. All right. Maybe TikTok's just acting up tonight. Seems like it's doing weird things. We're also live, guys. If you are not following us and you want to watch us on something bigger, we're over on YouTube tonight because I'm in my home office. And then YouTubers, if you like your mobile device, we're over streaming on TikTok as well. Thanks, Matt. I appreciate it. This is what we do. We talk about money and education, and I think too long and hard about these things. And we've been doing this for 15 years, so we try to get a sense of what's happening. We know a lot of the private lenders, we know a lot of the regular lenders, the loan servicers, people in government at the Department of Education. You just build some contacts and then you talk about these things. You nerd out. So all right. My guess would be moved a year to 327. I think if you're gonna, I just think the Department of Education needs to be very clear on when the SAVE forbearance is going to end. And maybe it's going to come after in the negotiated rulemaking because they were talking about that. They were talking about how they're going to migrate these borrowers. Big Game, I don't know if you heard me earlier in this call. I don't know when you jumped in, but some of the notes from the negotiated rulemaking that happened was that the Department of Education doesn't even want to put people into RAP directly if they're in SAVE. They want to put them into standard, and they want to make them opt into either RAP or IBR affirmatively. And then if the default would be standard, and then they end up in default if they don't make any payments. And so I just hope after negotiated rulemaking, maybe they'll just make it clear. We can get everyone on the same page, and then people can start making choices. I think, I think you know this, but a lot of people just need their hand held and they want to know very definitive answers on things, and they don't like making choices under uncertainty, even if the choice is better for them. And so I think hopefully there. Star, welcome to our chat. Over here on TikTok, Star is saying I still need to complete my FAFSA. That's okay, Star. My recommendation for completing the FAFSA is always by Thanksgiving. You got time. I say don't go past Thanksgiving though. So you don't need to be first in line. I think if you're doing it by Thanksgiving, you're probably safe. Yes, there is aid that's first come, first serve, but Thanksgiving is still pretty darn good place to be in line. If you didn't see my link in bio and go to the FAFSA deadlines, 2-star, if you're in certain states or applying to colleges in certain states, your state might have specific deadlines. About half the states are ASAP, like you need to get it done first come, first serve. The other half have deadlines, and they put everyone in a pool and they dole out the aid from there. So go look up your state. I'm in California here, so March 2nd is California's priority deadline. Basically, if you get it in by then. Rick, where is the best place to find scholarships? This is a great question, and it's, again, a nuanced one. Where to find scholarships? The best scholarships you're ever going to get are coming from the colleges. So as you're crafting a college list, look for colleges that are generous with their merit scholarships. If your child is eligible for any merit scholarships, some niche scholarships, and then also any type of need-based aid that you might qualify for. That's going to be the biggest dollar amount you get. Federal aid that's need-based is going to give you Pell Grants. You might get a state grant. And then there's so many private scholarships out there. And there's no really best place to look. My favorite right now is Scholarships 360. A lot of the scholarship search engines all got bought by lenders. And not to say that's good or bad, but take that as you will. But Scholarships 360 is still independent. And then it's just applying and doing the work. But, a lot of those private scholarships are like $1,000, $2,000. And it's money. It's great, not to say anything, but it takes a lot to potentially add up to where you need to go. You can start now, though. I also say, Rick, in lieu of scholarships, seriously, I don't know your situation, your kid's situation, but I'm actually I'd rather your kid not do scholarships actually, and I would rather your child go work for the same amount of time they're going to devote to scholarships. So go get a job and just work some extra hours. You'll probably actually net more money than private scholarships, and you'll have a better story and get better experience with it. So keep that in mind. That's kind of my personal philosophy. But don't dismiss the college and the merit scholarships. That's huge, big money. All the little $1,000 scholarships, a lot of time, effort, not a ton of monetary return. You're better off just going to work. Star, I'm scared to put the wrong number for the asset section about the money in my bank account. It's just reporting the money in your bank account. You just do it. So don't be scared. And Star, I would just go work part-time. Work study is work part-time. You get a tiny tax benefit, but like, just go work part-time. Boom, Mama Bear, welcome back. Always nice to see you. And your loan is in deferment because she's in grad school. I think we said that might happen. So I'm glad to hear it. And if you guys are just joining us, I see a bunch of more people trickling in. Always nice to have you here. Pam Veeries, welcome. Thanks so much for being here. Please drop a comment, question. We are always happy to answer them. User, currently in ICR, what is your advice on what I should do going forward? As soon as you become eligible for IBR, move to IBR. I was having some conversations today, and we're hopeful that that'll be allowed probably in the new year. I mean, it's supposed to be already, but hey, as soon as IBR becomes available for you, move into IBR. That's it. And then just keep making those payments. But moving from ICR to IBR is going to save you, 5 to 10% on your monthly payment, and you're still making the same forward progress. Marta, what is the ideal amount to have saved between 25 and 30? I have an answer for you, but I want to pull up the definitive number here because I love this question. I'm like excited to answer it. But I want to like throw some numbers behind it here. All right. So if you want to have a good checkpoint of how much you should have saved by age, it kind of depends on how much you're making. And so this comes from JP Morgan's asset management guide. And they say that if you're making less than $50,000 a year, you should have 10% saved. So $5,000 if you're 25. This is for 25 too. I'm going to do the lower end of your range. If you're doing pretty good, you're probably at about 25,000 or more. I would say that you should be shooting for significantly more than that. I think if you started working at 16, you should be pushing to like 50 to 100,000 in that age range. Just because of compound interest and growth and like putting away at it every single year. I think by the time you get to 30, you should easily be at that $100,000 range, if not more. I mean, you can get really aggressive there, but the more you save, the happier you will be. One of our goals was to reach 1 million by 30. We missed it, but only by a short period of time. And you can do it. And I started working at 12, full-time job at 16, worked full-time while getting both my bachelor's and my master's degree, and side hustled on top of having a full-time job and going to school and saving. 100% possible. I also don't dismiss working with a spouse early. I think one of the big reasons that a lot of people aren't building wealth as early as they are is because they're not coupling up as early as they are. And I'm not trying to do this from some type of right, left, conservative, whatever, but I'm just doing it from the math perspective that if you get with your future spouse or partner at 24 and you still live like you're 18 and you share a studio apartment that's super cheap, but you have 2 incomes adding to the pot, you can start saving a significant chunk of money before you have children and life gets a little bit more expensive. So something to think about right there. 2 people working full-time, less expensive. The expenses of 1 person goes a long, long way. And then side hustles. It's a lot easier to side hustle when you're 25 and make more money than it is when you're 35 or 45. So what are you doing before work, after work? Are you going and buying $18 cocktails because it's fun? Or are you out making $50 because that's fun? I think that's fun. So I hope that helps with your answer. I love it. I just love that you even have that question in mind and you have a goal. It freaking excites me because I love the savings. User, do my ICR payments count towards forgiveness when I switch to IBR? Yes, they do. Repay is dead. Remember, you can't switch to repay, but if you leave ICR and you move to IBR, your payment history continues with them. Mama Bear, will the government pay the interest on subsidized student loans when she is in school deferment? Yes, the government will pay interest on your subsidized loans when you're in school deferment. No, you do not get PSLF while you are in school deferment. So hope that helps. Matt, do my COVID forbearance payments count towards IBR as well as pay counts towards the 25 hour? Yeah, for example, I have 4 years worth of payments for both of them, 21 years left. I'm not totally tracking you on the end, but your time in the COVID forbearance counts towards IBR and PSLF if you have it. That period counts. If you went in, I forget our conversation earlier already. I think you were no, you're in pay. So you weren't in the save forbearance. So the save forbearance does not count for IBR, but COVID forbearance does count towards IBR. Tiffany, so close to PSLF forgiveness. My June payment is all it's missing. That is frustrating. I would say keep making those payments if you need to for at least a little bit. Maybe it'll kick in and then you'll just get a refund of any extra payments you made. I wouldn't jump into forbearance right at 120. I would get up to like 122 or 124 just to make sure. And then if you have forbearance time, you can hop on forbearance, but just keep making those payments. And it's super frustrating though. And the government shutdown is not making that any better for you because no one's actually addressing those types of issues. That is a Department of Education issue and they're not going to deal with it. Jeanette, Fine Chinas, welcome. Thanks so much for hopping in. Rick, how long does a student have to pay back a federal student loan? The default, Rick, is 10 years, up to 25 years, actually up to 30 years for a new borrower. So the amount you borrow, the standard plan payment is going to based on your, one second, I'll pull it up for you. The standard plan is going to go from 10 to 25 years. And the repayment assistance plan that we were talking about is going to go to 30 years. And so that is how long you have. Here it is right there. So it depends on how much you end up with as your loan balance. So for your new borrowers, if you're under 25K in total, it's going to be 10 years, 25 to 50, you got 15 years, 50 to 100 is 20 years, 100K or more is 25 years. And if you go on the new repayment assistance plan, the income-based one, you have 30 years, and that's what'll pay it off. So, Star, how does Project 2025 affect FAFSA? It doesn't affect FAFSA in any way. FAFSA is actually running decently well. I am finally seeing a few errors on the FAFSA, mostly having to do with login issues. But FAFSA has been a very strong success story this year for the Department of Education in terms of how it's operating and how the changes are. It also comes because Congress last year passed that the FAFSA has to launch on October 1st, and it launched on September 25th, the earliest FAFSA launch in history. So we can toot some horns when the government does something good. They actually did something good this year with that. So it's not all doom and gloom. Jeanette, I double consolidated and I'm in IBR. Can I stay in IBR? Yes, Jeanette, you are perfectly fine where you are because that is where you will be anyways. But you don't have to do any of the nonsense that everybody else with Parent Plus loans is doing. So please, Jeanette, go and share that with the world because man, oh man, am I seeing so many confused Parent Plus loan borrowers that are double consolidated. And they do not know what to. Yes, I know exactly what your follow-up. I was about to say. Thank you. So many people saying you had to make a payment. No. You do not. And if you don't believe me, Jeanette, because I'm just a random internet guy, you can go to studentaid.gov and you can click the legal update on the banner right at the top of the screen. I know you believe me, but just to go see, they updated the FAQ, and I talked about it at the very beginning of our live. They updated the banner on the legal update on studentaid.gov. And you can read the FAQ there now, and the FAQ actually says this, that you do not have to make a payment. It says, like, will you have to change? I can tell you the exact saying. It says, Parent Plus borrowers who have consolidated their Parent Plus loans and who have enrolled in income contingent plan. Oh, that's not it. Let's go to the next fact. What's one of these FAQs in here? Let me see. It says, borrowers who consolidate their loan must have their consolidation loan. Borrowers who must consolidate their Parent Plus loans in order to access IBR don't need to be enrolled in ICR before June 30th. They don't need to be anymore. And so, anyways, it basically says that you can go right into IBR now, and you don't need to do this one payment. They did update it though. All this fear came from the FAQ that came out last time, and now that has been resolved. So go check it. It's there. You don't have to make a payment. So anyways, hope that helps. I wish, like, I don't know who's making these updates, but like the language is not helpful on studentaid.gov lately too. So, Star, what happens if you fail to pay back a student loan? Oh man, Star, if you fail to pay back a student loan, it gets ugly fast. So what happens is, first you go into delinquency and then you go into default. It jacks up your credit. Your credit gets dinged. That actually makes your life more expensive. But then if you end up going into collections, you're also accruing interest on your loans. They add 30% in collection costs to your loans. And then they'll start garnishing your wages, garnishing your tax returns, just taking your money left and right. But because you've had 30% added to your loan, all this money they're taking from you, it's not even going to your loan. And so you just get into this vicious, I call it the debt cycle, and you just don't get out of it because like your loan balance is like just keeps growing because of collection costs and fees, and they're stealing your money and it's not even going to your loan. And so like the cycle just gets worse and worse and worse. And then your credit's trashed. So you're also going to pay more for an apartment and a cell phone, and you could lose your job or not get a job, could not get an apartment. You might have a harder time getting a car, or if you do, it's going to be more expensive. No, Star, it's not about not borrowing anything. It's just about paying back what you borrow on time. That's it. Don't default on your student loans. It's the worst financial decision that you can do. Thanks for the hearts, guys. I was like, we were off to such a slow start, and now we're rocking and rolling. Over on YouTube tonight, I'm married and file my taxes separately. But when I apply for IBR, it asks for my spouse's tax return, even though only my income is considered. Does it actually ask for your spouse's tax return, or does it just ask consent for it? Because you should be checking the box on there that says that like you don't have access to your spouse's tax return, which is why you file separately. So when you do your application, it doesn't ask you. I'm not going to lie, I haven't done the IDR application in a little bit, but I don't remember that happening for married filing separately. Now you got me curious, though. We're going to do it. We're going to do it right now. We're going to go here. Let's do this together. Why not? Let's see here. There is, where is it? The demo. Let's see what the demo says. Yes. All right, we are going to continue. Yeah, you can retrieve my tax return information, whatnot. There you go. There's your name and address. Pulls my loans in, continue, and then I forget what it says here. Yes, but then are you separated? There we go. We filed our taxes separately. Here we go. There we go. So yeah, you do this. So you're married, you're separate, or you're not separate. Yeah, we are separated because you file your taxes separately. If you choose no, it doesn't give you the option there to choose file your taxes separately. But be filing your taxes separately right here, it'll pull it off. No, it doesn't even ask you, do you have it? So look here, if you look on the screen right now, Sonny, you just go through here, you do your name, address, and phone number. You hit continue. There's your loans. Hit continue. Hit continue. Your marital status, you're married, but you're separated for tax purposes. You are separated. And so, yes, we file our taxes separately. So, and that's what you check. And then there you go. Boom. Because you need to be able to get this box to get there. So. And that's what that means. So don't fret. You just need to get to this box that we filed our taxes separately when you go into the application. But you are separated. You filed your taxes separately. You filed married filing separately. That's what it means for tax purposes. So, glad, Star. I am glad that is helpful for you. Don't blame them. They have a different role, Star. I think financial aid offices sometimes get a bad rap. Their job is not necessarily to help you as the consumer. They do, but their job is like a car sales finance office, is that they're trying to do the deal to get you enrolled in the school. And so, yeah, they'll help you to the point that they can get you enrolled in the college. But they don't know all your life or your personal financial situation or things like that. And they got a lot. They got thousands potentially of people waiting for help. So something to think about. What's up, Dylan? Thanks for being here. Alex, Deb, Mesh, Jeanette, drop a question in the chat if you guys are there. Sonny, I hope that helps. So good. I'm glad I think you get it right there. So that's great. You just got to get to that box that I am filing my taxes separately so that you can get there. Deb, on the FAFSA form, I am married filing jointly. Do I need to put filing jointly on the form? Yeah, so only one of you fills out the form if you're married filing jointly, and you pull out your joint tax return because you're filing jointly. It'll pull both of your information in together. Actually, makes it even quicker to fill out the FAFSA. So, thanks guys for the hearts. I appreciate it. Makes me feel loved. The hearts help let the world know we're here. I know you don't have hearts on YouTube. The likes on YouTube help the world know we're here. So if you guys have a question, if you're just joining us here, we're going to go for a little while longer. I'm Robert, founder of The College Investor. We talk about personal finance, education, student loans, financial aid. We've been doing this for 17 years now, 16 years, a long time. Myself and my team, this is what we do. You can find us at thecollegeinvestor.com. Like and subscribe. This is what we talk about. All right, we got another question. I had a question on FAFSA. Does my parent have to put in the tax information? Dylan, the cool thing with the FAFSA online these days is it automatically links to the IRS and pulls all their information in. So they should likely not have to enter any information manually. Your parent does have to have filed a tax return, though, for 2024. If they have not filed a tax return for 2024, it does mean that you don't get access to federal need-based aid other than student loans. But Sonny, sorry, I'm jumping back over to YouTube. But Sonny, you filed your taxes married filing separately, so you are separated from your wife for finance tax reasons. That's exactly what that means, that you have separated financially from your spouse for whatever reason you filed separately. Granted, I know it's for student loans, or I'm assuming it's just for student loans, but that's what married filing separately means, and that's why you did it, and that's what you select. Deb, can you fill out the FAFSA for 2026 year? Yes, you can. Sonny, you got to stop arguing with me on this one, though. But you are separate from your wife for finance reasons. That's why you filed your taxes separately. Yes, the FAFSA is open. The FAFSA open for 2026-2027 school year. A couple weeks back, you can file the FAFSA right now. Mesh, how do I report my income for certification? I don't quite know what you're reaching for here. Drop a follow-up question below and we'll answer it. User, I have a Parent Plus loan that I consolidated to ICR. It says closed on my credit report. User, when you consolidate your Parent Plus loan, your old loan is closed and it's done, and you get a brand new loan that opens up over here that you can apply for a new repayment plan. So your Parent Plus loan is dead, it's gone, closed, and now you have a consolidation loan that includes a Parent Plus loan inside of it, and it is open and active. And so just check on studentaid.gov. I wouldn't worry so much about what your credit reporting says. Some of those get wonky. The free credit reports, even wonkier. So check studentaid.gov. Zoomies, how about if the parent didn't make enough money for 2024 to file taxes? That's cool. They can check a box in their FAFSA that says, I was not required to file a tax return. However, you're going to have to submit documentation that says you didn't make enough money, or this is all I made and I wasn't required to, because they're not just going to take your word for it. But it's not hard. You just write a little thing that says, I didn't have any money, or here's my unemployment statement. I wasn't required to file a tax return, whatever. So something to think about. It's not hard though. Welcome guys. We're getting some traction going on TikTok. We're still getting some traction going over here on YouTube. I appreciate it. We still got Twitch going. Twitch is going strong. So that is nice to see. I love that. If you guys are just joining us, please feel free to drop your question in the chat and we will answer it. I'm going to go here for the next while. Could the student apply for change of circumstances? I'm not quite sure what you mean by that, because that's not something you do on the FAFSA, Jumies. You can appeal your financial aid award after you get it for a change of circumstances if when you go to school in 2026, it doesn't match what the circumstances were when you filed the FAFSA. All right. Jeanette asks, is it better for them to, or is it better to submit pay stubs rather than to pull your tax return for certifying your income? Jeanette, it is usually better to have them pull your tax return, especially if your income is the same. Because when they use your pay stubs, you are always going to use your gross income, not your net income. And so it could result in you having a higher student loan payment as a result of it versus what your pay stub, or sorry, what your tax return says. The only exception to using an alternative method is if your pay stubs are significantly lower than your tax return was, and or you like don't have a job, don't have pay stubs, whatever, something like that, then definitely use your pay stubs because they're so much lower than what your tax return was. So something to think about. Rick, you can find us at The College Investor on TikTok. We're all over the place though. You're gonna get the same content on YouTube, but if you're sending this to your kid, love it. College Investor on TikTok. We are here. Devin, am I subject to the new loan limits come 2026 if I am a current student loan or student and borrower? Devin, break it down for me. What loan limits are we talking about? Are you an undergraduate student now and you're starting grad school? Are you already in grad school? Have you borrowed a plus loan before? Like, what's the deal? What are we borrowing? And I can break it down for you based on that. Star, is the Niche scholarship site legit? Yeah, Niche is great. We're trying to work with them right now for some cross promotion. Niche has been around for ages. They're a scholarship search engine, and they also do direct admissions and all kinds of other stuff. Totally legit. But Star, like you might have heard me talking about with Rick over on YouTube earlier, is, you know, all those $1,000, $2,000 scholarships, they're a lot of work, and you don't get a ton of money for the work. You might earn $1,000 just going and working part-time this week at a restaurant or a big box store. So like, if you're trying to figure out how to divide your time, I would look for like big merit scholarships from the colleges that you might be eligible for, and then like just supplementing it with work. All right, Devin, now clarification. You're already utilizing Grad Plus loans and you've already borrowed a Grad Plus loan. You are grandfathered in on the caps. I'm going to put an asterisk here though. The caps are different than the repayment plan options to you. Okay? So you can borrow your Grad Plus loan uncapped all day long. But if you borrow a Grad Plus loan in 2026 or after July 1st of 2026, you will be subject to all of your loans being only available for the RAP, Repayment Assistance Plan, or the Standard Plan. Because since the new loans are in that, all your loans have to be repaid under that. So I don't know if that really makes a difference. The RAP plan's not that bad and scary, but it's something that you should be aware of. You can uncap borrow all day long, but you're going to be subject to the new student loan repayment plan options available to you. I applied for ICR after I consolidated my Parent Plus loans. Can I pay more than my payment is due every single month? User, you can pay more than your monthly payment is due. I don't recommend it, but two reasons why. One, if you want to make extra payments because your plan is to pay off the student loan, the best way to do it is to log into your loan servicer's website and make an additional principal payment. Don't just send in extra money, because your loan might end up in pay ahead status and like you're not really making any progress. It'll all work itself out, but it's super annoying. Number two is, if your plan is that you don't know if you're ever going to pay off this loan, well, then making extra payments on it is a silly waste of money, because you will get loan forgiveness. And so any amount you paid on it was just wasted. So if you're going to make extra payments on your student loans, make sure you understand whether you're paying them off or not. And then if you are going to make that extra payment, just do it manually on your loan servicer's website. 18K in student loans, nurse for 3 years in Chicago. My employer pays $100 a month. Advice. Well, first off, Marta, congratulations. You really don't have a lot of student loan debt. I know it feels like a lot, but you're not in a lot of student loan debt. If you're working as a nurse for a nonprofit, a hospital, a healthcare group that's nonprofit, you can go for public service loan forgiveness. And so get on the lowest monthly payment that you qualify for under IBR or the future RAP plan, and then get your qualifying time for public service loan forgiveness. If you're not going for public service loan forgiveness because your employer is a private place, a private doctor's office, anything like that, then it's really just snowballing that debt, because you're not going to get your loans forgiven. So, Golden, do they check your checking and savings accounts? Do you have to put those on the form? I'm assuming you mean for the FAFSA, and you do have to report the balances in your checking and savings account. I don't know if you saw my video from a couple of days back, but lying on the FAFSA is a crime. Lying on the FAFSA probably won't get you in federal trouble, but if the financial aid office finds out, they will make you repay that aid. They will expel you. You will never be able to borrow any type of federal aid again, state aid again. So don't do it. Honestly, too, a lot of people get hung up on how much of an impact certain dollar amounts have on the FAFSA. Because I'm always like, they're going to lie on the FAFSA. And I'm like, well, how much do you got? Do you got like $150,000, $200,000? And they're like, no, I got $4,000. And I'm like, dude, that $4,000 is going to make zero difference to your financial aid. So don't commit a crime for something. Just don't commit a crime, and then realize that it's even dumber of a crime, because most of the time it's not even going to impact your financial aid. So Rick on YouTube is asking, what are the requirements, credit requirements for a Parent Plus loan? The reason Parent Plus loans are still a viable option, Rick, is because they have very limited credit qualifications. There's no like minimums or maximums. It actually has just rules. And the rule is you can't be in currently delinquent on anything more than $2,000 in any type of debt. And in the last 5 years, you can't have declared bankruptcy, had your house foreclosed, or defaulted on another type of debt. So as long as you didn't go in default, and as long as you haven't had a bankruptcy in anything, you know, like you'll be fine to qualify, which is why a lot of parents do end up taking a Parent Plus loan, because if they don't have the best credit, they're probably not getting a great rate on a private student loan. And so taking the Parent Plus loan is a decent option. So, because there's not a lot of credit requirements for it. Star. Congrats, Star. Yeah, just start working the work study and then, you know, do that. Mama Bear, do I think it's wiser to pay off my student loans for years with pay on student loans for years with loan forgiveness, or pay it off ASAP? Mama Bear, it's a math question, and everyone's math is going to be different. A lot of people, forgiveness is going to be better, both from like your total amount you paid on the loan is less, and typically you can't afford to pay more. Like you just can't afford it. So there you go. With that said, like there is so much time involved, and especially if you're like on the edge, like, am I going to pay all this time and like I'm only going to get like a little bit forgiven, or if I pay a little bit more, like maybe it'll pay off faster. You just have to do the math on it. I think a lot of people over-index the interest on student loans, but it's important to realize that student loan interest is simple interest. And so like it accrues at the exact same amount. It doesn't compound. And so like that doesn't really make as huge of a difference over time as other types of debt. Are there any circumstances in which a grad student can get a Pell Grant? No, grad students are not eligible for Pell Grants. Just as plain and simple. Pell Grants are only eligible for undergrads. So. Dylan, did my form submit even though it says the FAFSA form is in review? Yeah, that means it's submitted. They're reviewing it. You'll usually get your student aid index posted on your student's dashboard or your dashboard within 24 hours. So just check back. Buying back. Ooh, PSLF buyback. What's the amount based on? Would it be the current application for IBR? So your buyback is based on the amount that your payment would have been during the period you're buying back. So if you are past 12 months now, you have 2 periods. And I think this is what a lot of people are missing in this conversation. So your original save time, like let's just say you're trying to buy back the whole save forbearance. You got July of 2024 to June of 2025 is 1 period. And you're not going to buy that back under the save payment anyways. You're going to buy it back under the repay, the 10% amount. So then now the next period is going to be July, August, September, October, like now, and that's going to be under the lowest legal repayment plan available to you today. So for most borrowers, that's going to be pay as you earn or new IBR, because they're the same at 10% of your discretionary income. So when I'm saying like, should you still be sticking around and save or not? No. Well, I mean, you can, but like if you're looking to PSLF buyback, like the buyback amount's based on your monthly payment right now. So like, why don't you just start making your monthly payments right now? You can still look to buy back that period of time. For some people, the payments might be very similar or the same. And honestly, for some people, the delta of like $20 or $100 might not be worth waiting around either, because the time value of money, the time at an employer that they might not want to work at, so on and so forth. So I hope that helps you understand it, because I think a lot of people are getting confused. Like you're not getting all of the time under the old payment plan because you've passed a whole period. You've passed the year. And so, and if we're talking save, yeah, so 2024, July was the first month of the save forbearance. So June of 2025 would have ended that period. So when you buy back, if you buy back for August or July, August, September, this month, you're buying back at pay or IBR amounts for at least those. And of course, that'll continue for another year. And if you keep staying in the save forbearance, you're going to have to buy back the next period and the next period. And so like at this point in time, it doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense for people to keep staying in these forbearances, because it's like you're going to have to make a lump sum. And then the one thing I've learned from working in finance for 15 plus years, and even watching people in the COVID forbearance, nobody actually saves the difference. So then I'm actually like, these people that talk, well, it's like, I'm just going to keep saving that money. It's like, you're probably not saving it now. And so making a payment is probably the behavioral finance, like psychology of money stuff, says you're more likely to be successful if you just get on board and do it. So I hope that helps. Can a financial aid officer deny a Stafford loan even though the student qualifies for the Stafford loan? Technically, they can. They have to have reasons to. It's very nuanced. I've never actually seen it happen in practice, but they legally are allowed to both lower the amount of the Stafford loan or deny the Stafford loan. So I don't actually think most financial aid officers actually look. It's all automated too. Like, don't think that there's a human being that's looking at the financial aid award. Like, it's all processed by a computer system and sent to you, and only like appeals, exceptions, and weird circumstances that you call in for, like get it brought up on a screen for like customer support, and then they look at it. So thanks, guys. Thank you for the hearts. I love it. Thanks for the likes and the follows. What am I missing here? I feel like I missed somebody's, and I'll get it here. My daughter is in grad school with loan and deferment. With her subsidized loans still not accrue interest. Yep. Subsidized loans don't accrue interest when you're in school deferment. So that is correct. Perfect. Jimmy's, I'm glad I could help you understand it. I think it's hard. I mean, it's one of those like nuanced, complicated things. I feel like I could draw it out better than I could probably say it. But that's why like it just makes, I'm glad it makes sense. I'm glad I was able to convey that. All right, guys, we're going to go here for a few more minutes because we're finally getting some love over here on TikTok. We're still getting some great questions over on YouTube. Please like, subscribe, and follow if you have not yet. Please give some likes, some hearts, share the love, let people know we're here talking about money. All right. We are going. What else do we got here? All right. We're just getting blown up with the spam. Let's see who's here, guys. Who am I missing? Market Insights, Stephanie, Alexis, Golden, welcome back. Bluebell, welcome. If you guys have your money question, you drop that money question in the comments, and we'll talk about that money question. If you guys are joining us over on TikTok, on Twitch, I appreciate you. It's nice. I'm only able to do those when we're in the office. And so we're here. And a little sunset back there. It's looking nice. Star, I'm loving your hearts. Thank you so much. I learned that the hearts go a long way for the TikTok algorithm to let us know that we're here, and they don't cost you anything. You just tap that screen, and then people know we're talking here. That's great. When do I go live? I typically go live on Thursday nights, usually right now. So 5 Pacific, usually go to about 7 Pacific every single week. Been doing it. We took a little break in the summer, but we did it in the spring, and now we're doing it here in the fall. And so it's been fun. You guys know we create articles and videos every single day, ourselves, my team, me. We have our podcast, the College Investor Audio Show. I think we're over like 700 episodes now. That thing's been going since like 2019. So however you like to enjoy your content, we're here. But I like the lives because you guys can ask questions. Because the one thing I always know is personal finance is personal, and it can be really hard to distill some of this stuff we're talking about into anything that's like actually applies to you. And so this is a great time to do it. That's why I like doing it. And I also think in this age of AI, you guys can know that there's a real human here that reads this stuff and hopefully knows a little bit about this stuff and is not like AI gibberish. Oh, thank you. You found it yesterday. So the algorithm is doing its thing, Star. I like it. I mean, we're in this algorithm. The computer is doing it. Rick, you can access our podcast, the College Investor Audio Show, on whatever your favorite podcast platform is, whether that is Apple iTunes or the Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, YouTube Music. We're on all of them. Short 10-minute shows. We dive into a financial news or topic of the day just to keep you informed on what's going on. We do some interviews from time to time. I'm going to be interviewing the California Treasurer coming up here in about a couple weeks. We're going to talk about 529 plans and saving for college. It's really fun to do that kind of stuff. I enjoy that part because otherwise I'm just on a computer all day. WB, is it a bad time to buy a house? We're now at the most unaffordable levels in history. WB, buying a house is always a preference, and it's a really question about what you value. You should never view your primary residence as an investment. It is always a preference because we all need shelter and we all have to live somewhere. The question is what types of things are on your preference scale and what can you afford, right? So for example, if you're younger, you can afford to, or it's easier to live in a small studio apartment, save that money. You can also maybe walk more places or take mass transit. That's easier. As you maybe get a spouse and have children, your preferences might change. You don't want to be evicted. You don't want to have to leave. You don't want to see your rent increase. You might need to have a little more space. It becomes a preference. Say the housing bubble pops. Again, though, you're basing it on your preferences and what you can afford. Your house isn't an investment. So if it goes down in value, it goes up in value, it doesn't matter. It's a preference because you got to live somewhere, WB. I think a lot of people think that their primary residence is this investment, and no, it's not. It's really funny you say this too because my dad has lived in the same home now for, 40 years. And we were looking at the cost of his house, and he said, my house is worth $1.4 million. And he's like, I only bought it for $150,000 40 years ago. It's that's cool. But then we started looking at all the money he spent on it over the years. And he'd spent $800,000 keeping it up, fixing things, doing some remodels over those 40 years. So now you're at 1 million plus in spend, plus all the years of property taxes, plus all the insurance and all the other sunk costs. He actually has lost money on his house over 40 years. And so, I don't think that you should view your house as an investment. It is just shelter, and there's preferences on how you want to handle your shelter. And there's pros and cons to renting and buying. Again, I don't necessarily want to be told I have to leave. I don't want to deal with rent increases. But the trade-off is maybe you live in a closer area to work that you can take mass transit. The trade-off is you don't have to deal with any maintenance or repairs or other unexpected expenses. So there's just trade-offs at every single level when it comes to buying a house. And the question of the market's it's not a thing when you break it down on a finance side of it. It doesn't feel good. I'm not going to dismiss that it doesn't feel good potentially to see your house value go down on Zillow, but if you're happy where you're at and you can afford it, it doesn't matter. Alexis, why is it taking so long to process applications at the loan servicers like Ed Financial? I'd love a little more context, Alexis. What you mean? I'm guessing you mean you want to switch out of Save, or you're trying to change repayment plans, because there's a lot of reasons why it could take longer. A lot of applications are processing quickly, so it really kind of give me a little more context there. disciple horizon. Any time frame on when I can get out of the save forbearance to IBR if I don't have a financial hardship. We were actually just talking about that at the beginning of the live, and the current guidance is winter of 2025. You can call that what you will. I'm hoping by the end of the year, I wouldn't hold my breath if it was January at this point in time because of the government shutdown. A lot of this, so like the technical aspect of it is being handled by like outsourced contractors, but there's no one to hold them accountable and follow up and do checks and all that kind of stuff because they're all furloughed right now. So what do we got here? Star, I heard college partnered banks are better than banks like Wells Fargo. I don't know what you mean by that. Oh, for savings. Maybe I should read your next comment. Star, if you want a savings account, click the link in bio and look at our list of the best savings accounts. The best savings account is the one that pays you the highest interest rate for the balance that you can deposit with no fees. That's the only thing you want to look for in a savings account. And so Wells Fargo, I can tell you, will never, ever, ever, ever be on one of those lists, at least unless they like fire all their management and change like their whole business model. But there's a lot of great savings accounts out there, and we have a list and we update it every day. User, my SAI, my student aid index came back very high, but I can't afford to pay that amount. Well, remember, your student aid index is just an estimate of what your expected family contribution is. It's not necessarily your expected family contribution. So what you need to look at is you need to craft a college list that you can pay for, knowing that you might not get much aid. Or you need to look at schools that offer generous merit aid that you could use. Or you need to look at potentially non-traditional options. You could look at community college and transferring. You could look at working for an employer that pays for your college. You could look at knocking off as many credits as you can between AP and dual enrollment and CLEP, so that when you get to college, you're paying for less time. There's a lot of options for you, but it does suck. All right. Alexis, I'm back to your comment. I'm trying to change to a new repayment plan from Save. And I'm guessing you're trying to change to IBR would be my venture. I was told it could take up to 90 days. So I have a couple follow-ups, of course I do. But number one is, did you link your tax return to consent? Or were you trying to upload additional information? That is step one. You did. Perfect. So now I'm going to tell you, did you go into your old Save application or your sold Save loan, go on student aid, and revoke the consent for them to use your taxes on that loan? I'm going to guess that's a no because most people have not. And so what I would do is I would go into your old loan, your old Save loan, or not your old one, but your current Save loan, go revoke your tax return, break your auto pay, make sure that nothing is renewing on that thing. Wait 24 hours and then go on the online application again and do the consent to the IRS and all that jazz. And now it might not solve all your problems, but I've seen this solve dozens of people's problems. And then your loan gets processed in 3 to 7 days, or your application gets processed in 3 to 7 days. While no one is saying this, there is some weird thing where like the old data authorizations, like I think getting jammed up. And so it's not letting the new stuff go to the new application. And so it's making it manually process. So try that first. If that doesn't work for you, well then yeah, you're just gonna have to wait in limbo for them to manually process it. And the reason it's taking so long is because there's so many applications and they're not, remember these loan servicers, they're not making a ton of money. They're making a little bit of money. And so they're not like hiring more staff to like process this unless the Department of Education gives them more money. So just gonna trickle through. User, how can I find out colleges that offer generous merit aid? That is the secret to college admissions, and it's a lot of research. It's a lot of manual work. Know what you want to go to college for. Use things like the Common Data Set. If you're not familiar with it, just go to your favorite search engine that's not Google, type in Common Data Set, and then you can start typing in school names and it'll show you the data of how much merit and scholarships in there. You can also use tools like the College Scorecard. It's a little easier to read. It tells you how many people get student loans, what the cost is, things like that. S. Mecca. I haven't seen much conversation about Trump moving student loans to private banks. I know so many people aren't against this because they would file bankruptcy. Oh man, S. Mecca, there's so much to unpack here. Welcome to our live. We talked about this at the top of the live, and I'll do it again because we have a whole new viewer set. I think a lot of people have turned over. So first off, there's no change to the bankruptcy rules, whether they're private loans or federal loans. You can file for bankruptcy right now with your student loans. You're not going to get it though. Because the reason you're not going to get bankruptcy approved for your student loans is because you don't pass the Brunner test. The Brunner says, do you have, what do you call it? Do you have an undue hardship? And you don't ever, but it's very hard to have an undue hardship with your federal student loans because if you don't make any money, you can get on an income-driven repayment plan. There's pathways to loan forgiveness. If you're totally and permanently disabled, you get your loans forgiven. So when you go to a bankruptcy judge and you say, like, I want to declare bankruptcy, and they're going to say, like, well, what's your monthly payment on your student loans? And you're like, 0, because I'm on an income-driven repayment plan. The judge is going to be like, well, why am I going to forgive this then? There's no reason to. It doesn't cost you anything. And so that's one of the big misnomers with student loans. They're totally forgivable in bankruptcy. They just don't get forgiven in bankruptcy because people can't pass this Brunner test because their payments could already be very low or 0. And so when the judge is like, well, I'll restructure your debt and I'll make your payment affordable, the student loans already do that. Star, yes, every Thursday night. So if you want to bail, we'll be here, but I love your likes and your hearts. Thank you. Okay, so let's talk about privatizing student loans, S. Mecca. Why won't they be privatized? Why is no one talking about this? Because it's a nothing burger. First off, nobody wants to buy the student loan portfolio. Student loans lose money for the federal student loan government, or for the federal government every single year. They're not profitable. I'm gonna pull it up. I'm gonna put it on the screen for you because you're on YouTube, so I can show this to you. So let's talk about how much money the government makes on student loans. Which is they don't make any money on student loans. Here we go. So in 2024, the government lost $19.64 for every $100 that they lent out. And I know the last 5 years have been like crazy, right? So let's go to a normal year. And I'm gonna put your question up here. So here we go. Let's go to a normal year. 2017, the best year ever for the student loan portfolio. The government still lost 70 cents for every $100 they lent out. And so the private banks and lenders don't want to buy these things. There are some profitable segments of the loans, like the PLUS loan program, which are Parent Plus and Grad Plus loans. But did you notice what they did with the One Big Beautiful Bill? They eliminated Grad Plus loans, which is going to push borrowers to private banks anyways. And they put caps on Parent Plus loan borrowing, which is going to push parents to private banks anyways. So they already are kind of privatizing this profitable section here of, the loans. All the rest of the loans lose money. So then we get to the next thing is part 2, that if they did sell these, they can't sell them to one bank. No bank's going to buy $1.6 trillion. No one's got the money. It's going to have to be broken up to like hundreds of banks. But now you're going to make this like number even worse because like each bank's not going to be able to get like the best part of the portfolio. So you're going to have to subsidize all this stuff. You're going to have to send more money to the banks. The executive branch and Trump can't do this unilaterally. Congress would have to pass a law that allows it because they're going to have to subsidize it. So then you get to like the other issue for individual borrowers is that even if your loans do get sold, let's just take the 1% scenario where your loans get sold. the terms of your loans go with them. Loans are sold all the time, mortgages, auto loans, it happens. The entire student loan system before 2009 was this system. It was all private loans insured by the government, and the terms, like they still had income-based repayment, they still had access to certain loan forgiveness programs. So if they went to private banks, all the programs that exist would still exist. It's just you're going to add a whole nother layer of bureaucracy into it, which is expensive. And that is the system we had before. And we said, this really sucked. It was expensive. It wasn't getting good results. So we brought everything in-house. And you can argue that like maybe the results aren't that much better, but we've lent out a lot more money. We actually did a pretty good job because the system, before COVID, here's the COVID years in 2023, 2024, but like before COVID, like it was getting close to break even, but we weren't paying all this extra bureaucracy. And so, the idea that the loans are going to get privatized is kind of a nothing burger. It's just a talking point. But there's so many reasons why it's a bad idea. And the one big beautiful bill is already kind of pushing the most profitable loans to the private sector anyways, through naturally prohibiting people from borrowing federal student loans. So hope that helps, SMECA. It's a great one. I'm just passionate about it because I don't think a lot of people understand the nuances of this system, especially if you haven't been doing it. I've been doing this for 16, 17 years. So I saw the old system. I lived under the old system when it was private. And now I'm in this system, and we've been talking about loans and stuff the whole time. All right, guys, I'm going to go back over here to TikTok. Is IBR better than RAP, the RAP plan? IBR and RAP it really depends, and everyone's going to have a different answer to that based on their income and their family size. Generally speaking, just a girl, IBR is better, the RAP plan is better for you if you make less than $100,000 a year, and the IBR plan will be better for you if you make over $100,000 a year. But that's super general. We have our calculators, link in bio. You can run the numbers and you can see which is best for your situation, because it really is going to vary from person to person across the board. Is IBR better? Is RAP better? It's really hard to say. So, guys, if you're just joining us, we're going to go for like another 15 minutes here or so. And I'm answering any of your personal finance questions. I love them. I love the policy questions. I love the personal questions. Whichever way you want to go with this, I'm happy to. And I love the hearts that Star is dropping there. If you haven't liked, subscribed, and followed, and tap that screen. Let people know we're here. Is ICR my only option if I have Parent Plus loans? There's a question over on TikTok. ICR is your only option today in October of 2025. However, next year, you will have to move to the IBR plan because ICR is being eliminated. And that's actually a benefit for you because IBR will be a lower monthly payment on your student loans than ICR. So today, that's the only option for you. Next year, you can move to IBR. And remember, you cannot borrow any more Parent Plus loans ever again, because if you do, you'll lose all the options and only have the standard repayment plan. So, all right. I hope that helps. Let's see who's here. I haven't checked in a little bit. Jesse Snow, say hi here. Mom. Demon's mom, you've been here for a while. If you got any more questions, I appreciate you watching. Star, IBR, ICR, and RIP. There's so many acronyms. So all of these are student loan repayment plans. And these are all the income-driven student loan repayment plans. And I like to say that it's like a big bubble, income-driven. There are 4 income-driven repayment plans, maybe 5 now. What is it? We got income-based repayment, pay-as-you-earn, ICR, the SAVE plan, which is dead, and the RAP plan, which is coming out in 2026. And so all of these student loan repayment plans are based on your monthly income in some way, shape, or form. They also include how many people are in your family and how many kids you have, things like that and stuff. So, and where you live, what states, because Alaska and Hawaii get a little bonus there. So it does make it confusing because there's a lot of options, and a big part of it is, you know, the options are slimming down significantly in 2026 to just one plan, the RAP plan. All right. It's Gibby. I work for a university and have loans and save. I haven't moved in PSLF and haven't made any payments. I have no idea what to do. Hey, I get it. It's stressful. But if you want to get your loans forgiven because of your job, and you also want to make the lowest legal monthly payment required by law, you got two options for you. And this is it. You can hop into IBR today, and you can go and use the calculator and see what that payment looks like. And you can hit the calculator here, the RAP plan that goes live in July of 2026. Those are your two PSLF eligible options. The question is which one has the lower monthly payment? You choose that one and you start rocking and rolling on your loans. And that's really all there is to it. Again, of course, you got to be able to afford it. So maybe you got to look at your budget and maybe you wait a little bit to fix some budget things, whatnot. But remember, the longer you go, the less PSLF credits you're getting because you're not making any payments. No, you do not have to consolidate. You just literally pick a payment plan and you start rocking and rolling. Rick, Alaska and Hawaii get a little cost of living bump for being not in the contiguous 48 states. So for all the discretionary income calculations, anything that has to do with poverty lines in the United States, Alaska and Hawaii have a higher poverty line for all types of government benefits, because it is expensive to live there. It's Gibby. I am glad to help you. That's really it. I hope that distilled all of the complexity down to, you have two choices, pick the lower choice, and then as soon as you can afford to make the switch and rock and roll. That's it. And I respect if that maybe takes you some time because you got to fix your budget, but that's really the options. So, yeah, someone's got an air horn going on inside there. Funny. All right, guys, we got 9 more minutes in this live. So if you guys have a question you want to get answered, now is the time to drop it in the live. I think my camera's even overheating here, and that's why it's flickering a little bit over on the YouTube, which is funny. It's like getting really hot. Star, what college did I go to? I went to UC San Diego. If I certify my income, it would use my 2025 or 2024 tax. If you did it today, you would use your 2024 tax return, Gibby. If you wait until after you file your 2025 tax return, it'll use your 2025 one. So if you made more money this year, it might make more sense to do it now than waiting, and then you'll have a higher payment because you're using higher income. User, after consolidating, I stay in ICR and then I move to IBR next summer. You nailed it. That's what you got to do. Once you're in ICR, you just have to complete that consolidation before June 30th. So make sure you're fully consolidated probably by March or April. And then whenever IBR becomes available, you can slide right into IBR. It might be earlier than next summer, but based on the rate things are progressing, I think next summer is a fair thing to say. All right, guys. All right. We got 7 minutes. Star, thanks for the likes. I appreciate it. Now's your last time to drop your questions, comments, pontifications, wherever you guys want to go. We've been doing this for almost 2 hours tonight, so thank you. Yep, user, that's if you have a Parent Plus loan. You nailed it. It is a little confusing, but I think you got it from your comments there. So I'm glad we were able to provide some clarity for that. I'm glad Gibby was able to get some clarity. That's great. I feel like I should ask some of the YouTube crew if you guys got camera recommendations, because like my camera's getting so hot it's like flickering over here. We'll sort that out. All right, guys. I'm kind of bummed that they didn't, because of the government shutdown, we didn't get the latest ICR or IBR and PSLF buyback status report. I don't look forward to it, but it's always fun to read and see what's happening. And it was a bummer that didn't get posted because of it. But, you know, that'll get caught up here eventually. All right. Cool, guys. If you haven't liked, subscribed, and followed, please like, subscribe, and follow. And we're still got a couple questions trickling in here in the last 5 minutes. You can't buy back time unless you're close to forgiveness. That's correct, Gibby. You have to be at, well, the buyback has to get you across the 120 mark. So buyback, if you're just starting this PSLF and repayment journey, I'm not going to lie to you. Like, I would venture that buyback might not even be a thing that you are going to have to deal with. It might not even be a program in 9 to 10 years from now. So the real question is just how do you get started on those PSLF payments? Because PSLF is enshrined by law. You'll be able to maintain your PSLF for your loans. But buyback might not be a thing in the future. It's not guaranteed. So, yep. I know that's not the best news. We need to end it on a higher note. Someone toss a question in that like ends us on a higher note here. I don't like delivering the bummer news. All right. Thanks. Thanks, Star. I appreciate those comments, guys. All right. I think we're going to call it a day here over on YouTube. Thanks, guys, for joining us. I think my camera is going to die over here. We'll go for another 2 minutes here on TikTok.